What's going on YouTube? Thanks for tuning in to the channel. Welcome to Oso Simplified, coming to you with a video here about New Year's resolutions and your mind is playing tricks on you. Like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you don't like, leave negative comments, any feedback will do, but let's jump into this one. So obviously at the top of the year 2025, sure, a lot of people have a lot of goals and have done a lot of thinking, putting a lot of pressure on themselves, mental pressure on themselves to get things done. But I would like to start this off saying that your mind is playing tricks on you. It often plays tricks on you, and you cannot fully just rely on your mind, motivation, mental fortitude, pushing through to get through things. Now, this has definitely been more of the path that I've aligned with for a long time. I did read a book a few months ago, and I've made a few videos kind of describing some of the things from it, called Reality Transurfing by Vadim Zayland. And one of the big things was the difference between heart and mind. And this is something that is in science now being proven in many esoteric circles. It's something that's been discussed for a while. Kind of went down a rabbit hole with near-death experiences, and it's very interesting some of the things that they say, as well as in particular religions. Now, I'm not a super religious person, so I would say more of my learning has just come from freeform me reading things that were interesting, applying it to my life, and seeing how it worked out. Now, why I say your mind's playing tricks on you is that generally we trust our thoughts. Now, these thoughts could be positive, they could be negative, they could be, self-aggrandizing, they could be, criticizing. But your mind is really just a processing system, just like a computer, giving you an output of, what it sees. Now, there is a level of logic, and there's a way that you can increase your ability to do logical thinking, and I wouldn't say to walk out of it, but I don't think that that should always be your point of origin, because with the mind, and I'm going to use this book a lot of the times as a framework, so that could be where you could go a little deeper if some of the things I'm saying is not making sense, or leave a comment, I'll try to answer. With the mind, it can't really create anything new. It's just taking information that it's getting and then synthesizing it down and giving you an output. Now, your heart, which science is starting to back this up a little further, but a lot of the information is going to be in unscientific information, whether it be religious, esoteric information and things, or near-death experiences, things like that, anecdotal. However, if you just think about it logically, using the information you have, so you can use your mind for something like this. If you think about the thing that actually connects us with everything else, whether it's other people, animals, I have a dog, a cat, it's really not on the level of mind. That's usually the place where most disagreements and confusion happen, is when we're trying to pair up what I'm thinking to what you're thinking. But when it's a feeling, that is generally something that's easy. It's easy to feel like, a conversation's happening and I'm feeling good. And even in a conversation, when original communications experts, psychology experts tried to break it down, the logical thing to them was, what are they talking about? What is the content of the conversation? Which removes the heart aspect of the conversation, that most of talking has nothing to do with what you're talking about. It's more about the fact that I like to make noise with my mouth and have guttural sensations in my body, while you like to have guttural sensations in your body. I like to feel like other people like to hear mine, you like to hear yours, and it makes us feel good to have that exchange. Very rarely are you like going back and using a fine-tooth comb over the content of the conversation that you had with anybody. And that's even what comedy is, or jokes, and that's generally the thing that makes us feel the best. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not something you're gonna go and build a life on. It's not anything that's actually, if you logically, important. But without those experiences, life almost has no meaning. And I would use that as the framework to say that, so your heart is actually more about what you want your life to be than your mind. Our mind is what allows us to live in society and understand things, and not just work off of specific impulse, and have a little bit more awareness than maybe a dog does about, laws and legalities. And a dog probably has more mental awareness than a plant. But we all at some level are living, and we can all at some level understand that. And where does that happen? I would say the closest organ we can put towards it would be the heart, which would be from time immemorial. And if I asked you, where's your soul? Very, I've never heard anybody do this, but I mean, I would say very seldomly, if not never, would anybody point here. Most people will point here or like in their gut, but somewhere in this area is where all of the feelings you have generally well up and start to, feel something. If you're scared, you usually cover it up. When you're happy and open, you usually open it up. Now, there's a physical aspect to that, but I also think there is a metaphysical aspect to it as well. Now that I've separated the two, I think they need to be used in tandem. And I'm going to kind of explain this while using my own experience with really just this channel. And that's kind of what the whole last year has been, is just me regurgitating a lot of these things as I'm working something out. Now all three can definitely be used in tandem, and the origin of what you want using that framework that I just described is going to be at the heart level. So that's going to be you having the feeling of what you ultimately want. And there's this idea of something called the alternate reality or flow. And in science, there's a lot of different things like this that, at any given point, like, atoms could either be, particles or waves, and until something observes, it doesn't actually pinpoint to a particular reality. Therefore, there's, in the quantum level, there's all this multiplicity, infinite multiplicity of possible renditions of the physical reality we see. And this is just one point converging on itself, that if you use that same framework, your heart kind of knows and is connected to this field and understands all the multiplicity of these things. And it can lead you to where you can follow, or at least get a sense of, when something is important to what you ultimately want. And I don't want to go back even further, that, you could have maybe a soul that incarnated in your body that, kind of almost lives in your heart, that can give you those feelings. But there is a feeling, there's an inner voice, there's an intuition that everybody can always say they've observed, whether it's like the feeling that somebody's going to come and they come, or the feeling that something good's going to happen and it happens, or bad's going to happen. Everybody has those types of experiences at one point or another in their life. And my assertion would be to use that as the starting place rather than the mind. So if you have a particular feeling about something that is coming from, the multiplicity of potential realities, that's something where you can use some of your logic to more understand. And this is coming straight from the book at this point now. Like, is this something that makes me feel comfortable? Is this something that, makes me feel good? Or is this something that makes me feel bad, like something bad's going to happen? And using my personal kind of experience towards this, and before I jump into that, there's a concept in the book talking about goals and doors, and that particular goals and doors to get to that particular goal, there are those that are for you. In the multiplicity of infinite renditions, there's a goal and a door that is for you, that will serve you, and your heart understands that. Your mind will convince you, based on society and all the rules you've learned over your 30 years of indoctrination, if you're my age, that don't trust that. Trust, the laid out metric, where I'm kind of asserting that you should more trust, at least in the starting portions of the direction you want to go, at the heart level. Then use your mind to, start putting one foot in front of the other to kind of go in that direction. And the reason I brought this to this channel is that for probably the last year, I've been kind of trying to push to have a format that fits what other people want to do, and didn't really take any inventory of like what I want to do. And one of the things that the book does say is to, if you have a goal, especially if you're not necessarily working towards it in the manner that you feel like you need, why don't you give up on it? And if it's really your goal, it'll come back. So I took a little bit of time off from my 9 to 5, and with that, I was planning to make all these videos. I had all these plans, and a lot of it was just stuff that I was seeing other people say, like, do this, do that, do this, do that. And some of these still resonate with me today. But for some reason, I just felt like, you're doing this fighting thing, and why don't you go train at a lot of Muay Thai gyms and kind of get that going. Now, as I trained at these Muay Thai gyms, one, it built my confidence up. That I come from mostly a grappling school. I felt like I was hanging in there with a lot of strikers. Day one, hopping in with some of the more experienced students. Now, I'm not saying I was getting the better of everybody. By all means, that was not happening. But it's not like I was at the bottom of any of the rooms that I jumped into. And then when MMA came in, it was definitely increased even better at that. But doing that, one, I could immediately feel that I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is the thing that's going to make me happy. Definitely's pushing me to want to have some fights coming up soon. But then, when I'm thinking back to this goal, it kind of came back into my head, and I'm like, why don't I make this channel, which I might change the name of, and I mentioned that before, a little bit more freeform in terms of just post the things that you're interested in, the things you want to do. And then when you focus on that MMA channel, use that channel to be the very curated channel, the very more edited type of channel in terms of the content. And now that you're doing all these things, that you are grappling, you're doing MMA, and you're training in Muay Thai now, you are actually an authority. You're actually subconsciously building the credibility to create a channel. Maybe this isn't the particular channel, the channel you're watching now, not the channel that grows and becomes something. Maybe it's not even YouTube that becomes something, but I could just very much feel that I have a contribution I can make to the world of MMA, to the world of martial arts. And it could be something that fits very well with what I'm doing right now, but I would not have gotten that experience, and I probably would not have ventured out later in the year until I took off a significant amount of time to multiple gyms, where I went to 3 different gyms over the course of a week, and almost had like a Muay Thai slash MMA like boot camp over that period of time. So to kind of synthesize all that down in terms of something you could apply, really it is understand that your heart is connected towards what you ultimately want to do. That's where you can really go back and understand whether or not, is this my goal or my door? It's the same concept of like a millionaire. Why does everybody say I want to be a millionaire? You know why? Because somebody else said it. And then if it wasn't because of that, you'd pick a different number. How is everybody picking the same number? Because they're just copying the goal of somebody else. So that's number one. Your heart's going to tell you what the ultimate goal is. Your mind is just going to take the information that's already out there and then convince you of something that you've been indoctrinated from. Use your heart first to understand the path to go on or a path to avoid. Then use your mind to find logically how to follow that particular path or avoid that particular path. The next piece would be, there is a world, alternate reality, or alternate, the alternate field, where all of the possibilities of everything that's ever happened or can happen or will happen exist, and your heart has the ability to tap into that, and that's where it's getting that intelligence. Your brain is going to process that where you can follow it. So logic is important, but intuition is the origin and where things should start. And at the end of the day, this whole concept is about creating the reality you ultimately want. And to create the reality you ultimately want, it's not just about trudging through the mud and grinding and working hard. And ideally, not that you shouldn't work hard, the work should be in some respect enjoyable if it's tied to what your heart ultimately wants to do. But then also, the destination is only important if it's the correct destination. If you work very hard to go somewhere where somebody else wants to go, and it has no matchup to what you want to do, it's like the work is even gonna be worse because you've sacrificed things for something that's not the reality you want. So that's really where I would say go in inward, and sometimes it takes putting goals to the side for a week and just really just listening. What is it saying that I want to do? Following that, and then using your mind to find that out. So in my case, I was like, I feel like I need to strike. I've been feeling very, like, little injured, being honest, a little stifled at the gym I'm at. We don't strike enough. I want to go strike. I knew one gym, and then I'm like, why don't I look at another gym? And then from there, I remember when I was training with one guy, he's just like, you doing anything else? You want to go to a MMA practice? And the normal me would have been like, no. But I'm like, no, something's telling me just follow this. And all those experiences were great. I made connections. I feel like I found a gym that I could work towards, work with. And that's the one I'm going to be continuing on. But that's a whole different conversation. But that's really it for this one. If you like the content, like, comment, subscribe. You dislike the content, dislike, leave negative comments. Any feedback will do. And until next time, you know what it is. Peace.